Greetings, I am the Harpy. In today's review, we are going over scene structure and talking about a couple of case studies within the First Law series and how these scenes relate to each other, how repetition is important, and ultimately how to identify Logan as an unreliable narrator over the course of this series and ultimately what it says for his arc at the end of it. A gentle reminder for the things that we have covered thus far. So, we have covered that Logan Ninefingers is either an unreliable narrator or Joe Abercrombie has left a couple of loose ends that are not taken care of in the First Law series. Um, these are the two options that we're kind of delving into and getting a better framework for how we are progressing with analyzing the First Law series, because that's really what this is about, is an analysis overall systematically of the First Law and discussing about what it's possibly about. The part about this that is going to be a little bit more cohesive in today's video is going to be the assumption that Logan is an unreliable narrator, and a lot of his hypocrisy comes from the fact that he is unreliable as a narrator. Because what is a hypocrite if not somebody who can't be trusted to say and do the things that they are going to say that they're going to do? It's an unreliable narrator, is essentially the kind of the same point that I'm trying to make, is a hypocrite is an unreliable narrator. Um, but I think that it's important to keep that in mind in today's video when we talk about some of these chapter foil relationships and really going over some of the examples.
This comparison that we're going to be looking at is going to start with the King of the Northmen, wherein Logan feels like a different man and is hiding the fact that he's sleeping outside from Wells to not worry him. In this chapter, Logan is negotiating the difference between basic needs and higher level needs. So, actualization, realizing who he is, taking accountability for actions. He's no longer focusing on the basic needs portion of his life, wherein he's hunting for food, doesn't know where he's going to sleep for the night, fresh water, things of that nature, things that we all take for granted in a civilized society. Logan is entering into a portion of his life where he doesn't have to worry about basic needs. He can worry about actualization, thinking about higher level behavior. Is he reactionary or is he not reactionary? Does he take accountability for his actions? Does he not take accountability for his actions? And in this chapter, Logan is owning up to who he is as a person. He owns up to Kwai and says something to the effect of, "You don't want to be me." It's kind of difficult to be Logan. The part that I have highlighted is, "I have fought in 3 campaigns," he began, "in 7 pitched battles, in countless raids, and skirmishes, and desperate defenses, and bloody actions of every kind. I've fought in the driving snow, the blasting wind, the middle of the night. I've been fighting all my life, one enemy or another, one friend or another. I've known little else. I've seen men killed for a word, for a look, for nothing at all. A woman tried to stab me once for killing her husband, and I threw her down a well. And that's far from the worst of it. Life used to be cheap as dirt to me. Cheaper. I fought 10 single combats and won them all. But I fought on the wrong side and for all the wrong reasons. I've been ruthless and brutal and a coward. I've stabbed men in the back, burned them, drowned them, crushed them with rocks, killed them asleep, unarmed, or running away. I've run away myself more than once. I've pissed myself with fear. I've begged for my life. I've been wounded, often and badly, and screamed and cried like a baby whose mother took her tit away. I've never, I've no doubt the world would be a better place if I'd been killed years ago, but I haven't been, and I don't know why." Now, this is the actualization portion, right? This is Logan taking accountability for what he's done, who he's hurt, and all of the bad things that he's done. This is accountability. And the part that we're getting out of this is that Logan is a new man. He feels like a new man, but he is a new man. Um, it's it's a little promise within the series where Logan says that he feels like a new man, and it's it's kind of one of these moments where we as the reader should be paying attention to the fact that something is different here. The part that we are comparing for this chapter, however, once we've gotten done with that kind of summary of what's going on, is we're going to be looking at the structure. We're going to be looking at the steps involved with getting to the next chapter. Now, looking at what happens, Logan is hanging out. Wells comes and checks on him. Malachus Kwai comes in. And then he and Logan have a conversation. Malachus and Logan have a conversation, at which point it's going to be Baez comes in. Baez is going to come in, fuss at Kwai, and then Logan and Baez are going to have a conversation. This scene structure, this chapter structure of having Logan, Kwai enter, Kwai and Logan talk, Baez enters, Baez fusses at Kwai, Kwai leaves, Logan and Baez have a conversation. This is the exact same kind of structure summary for another chapter, and that's going to be the chapter that we talk about next. And there's a couple of reasons. Again, number one, the structure is the same. But number two, we can go ahead and see from the introduction of Sore Thumb that these two chapters are linked to each other. He'd done the same, it felt long ago, from the balcony of his room at the library. The two views could hardly have been more different. Sunrise over the jagged carpet of buildings on one hand, hot and glaring, bright and full of distant noise. The cold and misty valley on the other, soft and empty and still as death. He remembered that morning, remembered how he felt like a different man. He certainly felt a different man now. A stupid man. Small, scared, ugly, and confused. So this is going to be the opposite of Logan being actualized, right? Logan is doing the base needs kind of anxiety again. He's doing the listening to the demons in his head kind of moment. And the part of this that I think is interesting is that the scene structure is the same again. And the reason why I think that's so interesting is because it's almost like a chapter foil, or it's a chapter promise in a way, where you get this kind of repetition of Logan's behavior and these different scenes, and it's almost as if Joe is trying to gaslight Logan's narrative by patterning who has interactions with Logan in what way. It's a very controlled and intentional way to write, where you have these scenes have the same structure and have the contents be different, right? In one, he felt like a different man. In this one, he feels like a worse man. All right, again, a different man. But in both of them, Logan feels different. He feels like a different person. He feels either like the actualized version of himself, where he's taking accountability for the evil that he's done, or here, where he's feeling insecure and self-conscious. Now, part of this is also characterization, right? We can't just say simply that, oh, this is to be a structural point to progress Logan's narrative in a certain direction. This is also characterization. This is going to be where Logan is kind of talking about how being around so many people frightens him. And there's a reason for that. Logan is misanthropic. He's kind of a combination of agoraphobic and misanthropic, right? So he doesn't like people. People give him anxiety, people make him stressed. And the reason is that Logan is killing friends and enemies alike. And that's a really scary place to be. He's constantly at war with his own brain. He never knows when the Bloody Nine is going to come out, and he never knows who he's going to hurt. So, the chapter that we're going to talk about now is the Bloody Nine. And we're not going to be doing a scene comparison. What we're doing is we're doing a instance comparison. And what I mean by that is an instance of something happening or a particular thing being emphasized. In the chapter The Bloody Nine, the thing that we get emphasized a lot, aside from the characterization differences between Pharaoh and Logan, because this is a big foil chapter in terms of seeing those differences, is going to be the number of times Logan gets hit in the head. Logan gets hit in the head several times in this chapter. I don't have an exact count because I don't care. But he gets hit in the head a lot. The thing that we are comparing that to is going to be the Among the Stones chapter, which is going to be the next chapter that we compare between. So we have the Bloody Nine and the Among the Stones from Before They Are Hanged. The reason why these two chapters are compared to each other is just like in the last comparison where we have this harkening back to a previous scene. Among the Stones is going to harken back to the Bloody Nine simply because this is the first violent situation that Logan is in after he turns into the Bloody Nine. We're anticipating that again. We're waiting for it again. We don't know if it's going to happen or if it's not going to happen. That's one of the reasons why these two chapters are coupled to each other is one, Logan turns into the Bloody Nine. The next one, we don't really know if he's going to, but if you've read it, you know that he doesn't. So we have that kind of oppositeness happening again. But more importantly than that, I want to talk about a little bit of diction. So this isn't a diction video as much as it is a structure video, but the word choice plays into the structure. So that's why we're touching on it a little bit.
In the Among the Stones chapter, you have 8.9% of the occurrence of the entirety of Best Served Cold, because remember, Among the Stones is in Best Served Cold. It's not in either of the other two books. But 8.9% of the word usage of foot or feet is used in Among the Stones compared to Best Served Cold. So that's close to 9% of the overall book's word usage for foot or feet is used in this one chapter. Now, the way that my brain works is that I see patterns in things that are intentional and things that are not intentional. This is one of those patterns that is intentional, in my opinion. And the reason why I think that this is an intentional pattern is because, again, we're comparing to the chapter The Bloody Nine. We're comparing to a chapter in which Logan gets hit in the head a lot. I want to say it's like 4 or 5 times that he gets hit in the head. And these are big head hits. These aren't like little love taps. These are serious brain injury. And I think that it's important to notice that we have this oppositeness in the structure again. And this time it's coming out in the diction that Joe is choosing to use, as opposed to the actual scene structure. The problem is that because all of these different elements build on each other, you can't really divorce them from each other without talking about another one. And so in this case, what we're doing is the structure of word choice, the structure of choosing instances of comparison and having those instances be opposite. The last thing that I want to talk about is not going to be structure related, but it's going to be a little bit more framing for where we're going in the future. So, if Logan is an unreliable narrator and all of his little hypocrisies are actually subversions to him being an unreliable narrator, because a hypocrite is somebody who does something different than what they say they're going to do, which is an unreliable narrator. I think that Logan's structural components to his narrative really lean in the direction of Joe incrementally changing things, almost like an experiment to get Logan to navigate into the line of thought that he wants him to be. And I think that this very incrementally, very structurally aware way to write is an incredibly effective way to tell a story, especially if the outcome is to kind of gaslight the reader along with a certain character's narrative, such as Logan Ninefingers.